everyone. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker Training. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of FMTrain.tv, where we create great FileMaker training, and we bring it to you every day. Wide variety of topics. Some topics you're going to love, some topics you'll be bored for you, so just a matter of finding the right training on the right day that keeps you gratefully entertained. So, audio check looks pretty good on the side of the folks on Discord. So we are broadcasting in high definition to YouTube, Discord, and Twitch. You can watch them all there. Upcoming broadcast schedules right here. FMTrain.tv is a pretty awesome place where you can go over here. You can see what's going on. You hit the live tab right here, and you can see the broadcast schedule. So tomorrow and Tuesday, I want to get everyone ready for this. It's very important. So everyone, Peter Green, Michael Gravel, all the people on Discord, everyone listen up. Emmanuel from Presario, Italy, listen very carefully. We are going to do tomorrow a step-by-step, kind of like a classroom session where everyone's going to walk through building their very first add-on. And but it's important that the people who know how to do this are helpful when appropriate, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do step one, open FileMaker. So everyone's going to have your laptop out. We're going to be doing it. I'm going to be doing it with you. I'm going to be the broadcast engineer, so I'll be there, but Christian will be presenting step one, do this. Step two, do this. Step three, do this. Step four, do this. When you're done, everyone here will have created their own add-on module, okay? That is the plan, step by step for Megan, okay? Megan's our benchmark. Bunny apparently died a horrible death. We haven't seen Bunny. And so we're using a bunny Megan. And so the idea is that we're going to walk everyone through the add-on module. So you need to come to class tomorrow, be here on time. We'll have a little bit of opening warm-up where I tell you what's going on and what to expect. We're going to go through this very slowly, step one, step two. If you have questions, I want the beginning people to be asking questions. If Jake starts talking about launcher files and stuff, we're just gonna eject you into some other area of the operation. We don't have to see it. So very important that we're going to do this step by step. Some of you have built launcher files, okay? This training or have built add-ons. See, that's what happens when I listen to Jake. So what happens is some of you built add-on files already, built your own add-ons. This is not for you. This is for everyone else. And everyone else, guess what, is the vast majority of FileMaker people. Most FileMaker people have never built an add-on. So this session is for all the people who have not built an add-on, right? So do we all need a feature? Okay, tomorrow's add-on. Okay, you guys ready for this? I had a big argument with Christian about this today, and I had to explain to him why I was doing it. And then after I explained why I was doing it, he got it, okay? Because he wanted to do a McMother freaking flippy thing with bunny rabbits and a call sequel. Right? You know what we're going to do tomorrow? This is really great. You ready for this? It's a box. Rectangular square box as an add-on. That's all it is. Why? Because he's like, I'm going to do an accordion object, and it's going to have this and 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 this. Yes, it's a box. And so the idea is that I don't want people asking me about what's an accordion object and where do I find the training on that and how do I do that accordion object. And meanwhile, they're missing the point of building the damn add-on. So it's a box or a circle. If you're so inclined, a circle will be acceptable. Okay, draw a box. That will be your add-on. So when someone drags it on, they get a object, a FileMaker box. Okay, that's stupid. Okay, well then you try to come here and do live training free for about 150 people and watch them lose their minds because they don't understand what an accordion is. Okay. So that's what happens after you've done this for many years. You understand where people get jammed up. My goal is not to explain to you about slide controls, accordions, fields, relationships, or anything else, only how to build the add-on. Once you understand the basics of the add-on, then after that, we're going to do it again. You may or may not want to follow us along, but we're going to add a little bit more complexity and then do it again, right? That's how this works. So, Christian, you can eject or hang out or whatever you want to do. But I just want to
I'm gonna eject and eat lunch and watch you talk about this so I can learn.
Well, it's good stuff. You have to learn, and I'm having little bits of cheese here. So, all right. So, first off, yesterday we got up through about item number understanding progressive backups. We talked about that. List parts of a layout, right? Especially in a list view. Oh, and along the way here, remember that there with certification, we're moving along. So I've just jumped into the certification conversation, right? We covered the basics. If you haven't watched yesterday, you can ask me questions. I'll try to come back and cover that. But you could put things that are on the layout and not on the layout. What I mean is they're on the layout, but they're off the side in a non-viewable area. Non-viewable area is something that was new, I think, with 12. Before that, it was all kind of viewable, and you had to have little hidden objects and things like that. And that predates, Kyle or not Kyle, but definitely predates Jake and Megan. So not to really worry about. But there's an area on the side. So if you put an object, a field or an object or a button or whatever the hell you want to put on in a viewable area, if you put it on the not viewable area, what does that mean? Besides just viewable, not viewable, you're going to need to understand the mechanics of what's still supported, what it does, what it won't do, etc. That's a good one. Building add-ons is not on the certification test. Understand that, okay? Layout items that are on the side of a layout not viewable. Make a note that you need to think about that as well. Variant method to interact with ODBC. Once again, you don't have to do this. You can decide you're not going to learn about ODBC and you're just going to write off like 10% or 5% or 8%. Probably it's less than 10% of the test, right? And not worry about it because you're going to nail the rest of it. Just keep that in mind. But there are ways of interacting with ODBC where you can import, do this, do that. Same with SQL. There is SQL in multiple spots in the FileMaker platform. One is you're going to import through SQL, and the other one is execute SQL, right? And actually, there's one, or you might run into one question, because remember, I took the entire test. So I took 200 questions, so I saw it like twice, I think. There's a SQL question like select statement / colon class, and they ask like 2 questions on that. And so I just don't even bother with that, okay? Because I'm not going to learn SQL, and I've always done very well in the test. But sometimes you just get things you're just not going to want to learn, and they're not going to like not certify you because you don't know it, right? It's a preponderance of the knowledge, right? And I think 50-60% was always the number with that. Didn't we go through these slides yesterday? We are getting to the point. We started at 0 yesterday, and so yeah, I will skip forward a little bit. Yeah, Megan, if you're ready to get certified, then you don't have to hear this twice at all, right? So yeah, careful, Megan. If you're certified, then you can throw hammers at the boss. But unless you're certified, be careful. Well, FileMaker Cloud 2 backups, FileMaker server backups, right? So we talked about that. Once again, that's there. Talk about security, encryptions. We talked about that. Where did we leave off? Roles, accounts, and privileges. How scripts interact with that. We're right in here somewhere we left off. Do you remember the question we left off on yesterday? Yeah. Tog is on there. Lobster was talking about the Tog. Okay, so we talked about this auto enter option. Remember, we take the auto enter window and field definitions and screenshot and memorize that stuff. Covered that. Yep. Here we go. So we're right here on number 26. So let's pick it up. So relationships. Claris will not use the word tog. Okay, it's not in their definition, terms and terminology that's in common usage, but not in their approved definitions, right? So about relationships. So cascading adds, cascading deletes. You need to understand what those are. You need to understand, and I don't know if it's in here wherever it's at. Maybe in the next slide. I'm not sure. Let me see if I can go to the next slide. Yeah, sorting through relationships. So this kind of gets back to the same slide over here. What are the 2 methods for sorting through relationships? Which one has precedent over the other one? That I don't know if they still ask that question. Yeah, that used to be a test question. If it's not, I'm surprised. Once again, I don't remember exactly, but remember there's 2 ways of doing it. A sort, which one has precedent, and if you do the filter through if you do a kind of like the filter portal sort at the portal level, how does that affect other items derived from the relationship, right? Very important to understand that. It's kind of a trick question, but if you don't know it, you don't know it. Cartesian joins. So Larry, I think, asked about a session on Cartesian joins. There's going to be a handful of questions on Cartesian joins, probably 3 or 4. Well, at 200. So yeah, you might have 1 or 2 on Cartesian joins that would talk about that. A Cartesian join is basically where any record on one side of the relationship relates to any other record on the other side of the relationship. I don't generally like Cartesian joins because they're not as useful as a one-to-one kind of relationship, but we're going to actually have a live session about that. So Larry suggests that we do a live stream on that. We will do that for everyone. Once again, it's not an advanced topic. Not everything will be Kyle grade advanced stuff. What's really important about relationships and togs is is, of course, Margaret was reading through some of the stuff, and she's kind of back working with us, and she goes, "Well, does Claris officially endorse Anchor Buoy?" And the answer is no. They don't endorse it by name, but they endorse it by the design, if that makes sense. So in some of the materials you'll see all on their engineering blog, and really not so much in the test, but it kind of comes up in the test, is if you have a group of your group of table occurrences that are connected, that's a table occurrence group. If you have another separate group of table occurrences that are connected together, but they're not cross-connected in any way, what does that mean? You need to be prepared to be able to handle that question. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure they asked about it, but I don't remember exactly how that was phrased. But you get that, and I couldn't give it to you anyway. But the point is that you have to understand that it's context, right? So if you're in this area over here, you're in this area over here. Oh, I remember now what it is. Typically, they like to ask about saved finds. So somewhere in here, you're going to see this. I'm just going to cover it right now. We'll get to a slide on saved finds. I don't use saved finds. I'm too damn old for the FileMaker platform. I'm like Command F. I know what I'm doing. And if I need to save a find, I make a button and a script, okay? But there are these things called saved finds. So if you're over here and you do a find, do a Command F, and then you can save the find, you can pop up saved finds, like right here. This is saved finds. Like here's all the saved finds right here. If you save a find, where else is that saved find visible? Under what conditions? And a lot of it has to do with the table occurrence groups, right? and multi-user and not. And is it multi-user? Is it not multi-user? Right? Understand, for example, if you do certain things in the FileMaker platform on your computer, like if I come up here and I go into layout mode, and I right-click the top and I say customize this bar up here. I don't know this per se is on the test, but this kind of stuff you need to know about. Some things you do are user-specific, and some of them are just machine-specific, right? If that makes any sense. So when you customize your menu bar, no one else sees it. Not only that, if you have a laptop and a desktop computer and you customize on one, the other one won't know about it, and you've got to do the work twice. So save finds are like, what context of those are they shared? If you save a find, where else can you get to it, and who else can get to it, right? It's important that you understand that. Cartesian join. There's a couple questions that you'll run into where Claris gives you this. It's one tog, but it's a long tog with like 8 hops in it, and they'll say, "What can you see?" And it'll be like a contact, to an invoice, to a line items, to a product, to a whatever, and or they'll do an example like, oh, it's like a school example. So you have a classroom, and then you have students, and you have teachers, and you have the principal and management. And if the principal has so many teachers who work for them, then what can we see about the students in this tog? The point is that if you jump through, they want you to be able to understand that if you jump through, like when we do Anchor Buoy, we like to keep it lightweight for performance. And so that tends to skew the product a little bit, but because some people do like these 8 hop things, and that's really stupid because it kills performance. Like when you do parent and then like Anchor Buoy, and that's your layout, and then you have child, grandchild, great-great-great-child, great-great-great-great-great-child, way down here. They're going to want to make sure that you can jump through there and logically understand how it filters each time and restricts itself, right? There'll be several questions on that. That one takes a lot of time. You have 90 seconds per question. Whenever you look at that one, unless you've been practicing that, it's going to take you minutes to figure that out, okay? Minutes. So that's where you have other questions that you're going to want to rip through. Now, some of the easy questions that they've asked for in the past kind of went away. Remember, it's not version specific anymore. I didn't see any questions anymore on how many characters can you put in a field, how many records can you have in a database, how big can a FileMaker file be. All that kind of stuff went away. I don't remember if they even ask about port numbers anymore with communication between server and client. I don't remember that specifically. But the point is that they're trying to make it version agnostic a little bit, and they took out some of the, like how many records can you have? 64 quadrillion is the answer. How big can a FileMaker file be? 2 terabytes. How much data can you put in a container? I think it's 4 gigs in a file, stuff like that. So understand that those questions are kind of gone away, but there's other things in there. So we'll keep going here. Yeah, so Scott Kane just posted a picture. I'm going to bring it over here. So, and this is pretty educational real quick. So let me go to Discord real quick. So where's Scott? So can I bring this up? Open original. Can I open the original? All right, so here we go. So let me zoom in on this a little bit. So this is kind of a crappy, let me move myself out of the way here. So this is kind of a crappy deal, but so it starts here and you have a relationship here, right? And then it jumps through here. And so there's like, this is ID to ID or something like that. And then maybe one of these or one or more of these could be a Cartesian join, which means that anything on this side can go to anything over here, right? And so what you have to do is you have to sit here and factor this through your head all the way, like because they're going to ask you about from here to the other end probably, or from here to the other end, and you've got to go here to here to here to here to here to here and jump through this. And so you'll have one that it won't have them that'll be this many on there, but it'll be like 3 on there, and then it'll jump off. So you have to kind of work your way through this, right? And if you have to spend 15 minutes doing it, you screwed yourself on the test. So once again, hot tip, you get to a hard question, save it for the end. The ones that are going to burn a lot of time. You want to chew through the easy low-hanging fruit, because you might be able to pass the test just by getting the easy low-hanging fruit if you know enough of those kind of questions, right? So anyway, let me come back over here, move myself back over here. So moving forward, sorting records and relationships, what are the options? Also, this has to do with if you go to a portal, what are the options under a portal? What can you do? And mostly I'm thinking about filtering and sorting and how that affects things in life, right? Also, as a side note, if you do that in a real world and you build a relationship that goes that far, you might gonna have some performance challenges with that. You might have to cache some of the data. Once again, it's a lean design conversation, a PSOS conversation, things like that. So moving forward, if we don't have question, yeah, Nick is in charge of fixing the mess. Yeah, so. Script control of security. I mentioned this yesterday, but it got written in here again. I was going through my notes. So what can you script? What things can you script? Can you create an account with scripts? Can you create a privilege set with scripts? Can you change someone's privilege set with scripts? Can you change someone's password with scripts? I'm asking you this because if you go to script workspace in here, basically this is one where you don't really have to super know it, but like some things you really have to know. Like for example, if you have things hidden on the side of the screen and a layout that are non-viewable area, you have to actually play with that and really understand how that works to make that question. My general impression is that when they ask about security over here, looking for the security stuff. That's open stuff. Spelling, accounts, add account, change password, delete account. You need to have that list memorized big time, okay? And it's really that simple. There's not that much more to it. I think you could derive most of the answers from the test from just memorizing what things you can do, i.e. what things you can't do, right? So if it says add account, change account, do you see the word privilege set anywhere in there, okay? No? That's probably a clue then that probably if they say, hey, you can change the privilege set to something else, that's probably, but that's not one whole question. That's just one of where they have multiple choice and they throw a bunch of things out there that'd be like, yeah, it'd be really great if it did that. And because it makes sense to me that it should do it, then it's probably in the product. Don't get caught in that logic, right? Because just because it makes sense, don't make it real, right? Right? So very important. So I'm going to close that. Don't save. Moving along. Tog, context between layouts. Once again, so if you have a context, right? And so a lot of times I'll go back to that multi-hop tog. If you're on here and I go to a related record and I end up over on a layout that's attached to this tog over this table occurrence over 4 down, what could my found set be or something like that, right? How could that be or things like that. So you'll see stuff like that. So yeah, so moving along with questions on that. Save finds, we talked about that. Okay, let's spend a couple minutes in here, okay? They're going to hammer this one because it's a peripheral knowledge thing, and it goes hand in hand with the one right behind here. Left, right, middle, pattern count. I should put the word pattern count in here. Pattern count. And it's not that, for example, when you do so left and right is easy. So for those of you who understand that you're going to extract, this extracts specific characters, this extracts words, this extracts values. Pattern count and middle are tricky because they have 4 options in them, right? And you really have, if once again, book knowledge won't cut it, you need to play with these things. And so, for example, left words is easy. Okay, give me the 3 left words of a field. So you put the field, options are put the field in and give me 3, and it'll give you the 3 left words or the 3 left characters or the 3 left values, but the values are really, left is at the top and it works its way down, right? So middle words is tricky because middle is, or pattern count's the worst one, right? Pattern count is go look in this field, look for this string, start at this position, and then count, you know, whatever, right? The pattern count, or pattern, that's middle. That's middle where we're doing that one. I'm getting that confused with middle words, but pattern count that you have to understand, like if you go look these up, you really need to have them memorized. So if I go FileMaker Pro Help, did it bring it up? Yeah. So if I go, let's just take a look at pattern count real quick. And you take a look at this. This one's not too bad. This is the text and your search screen. So let me go to middle. Just look, type middle. There's middle. So this is where you have to have the text, the start, and the number of characters you're looking for, right? So pattern count, position. Thank you. Kyle realized I was having a moment. Position is the one that's the super big, because whenever we're coding and we're scripting, we know what it does. We know it's in there. We drop it in the script and it says put these 4 things in and it labels them. Do you remember exactly what those 4 things are? Because they're not going to tell you that in the test, right? They're going to say what you're going to see. If I go to position here, okay? This is what you have to memorize. What they're going to give you is something like that. They don't give you anything else, right? Can't have anything else, right? Can't have my hand. I'm going to put block over here. They're going to give you that, and you're going to go, is that the one I'm starting here and give me the first one, or am I starting here, or I'm starting here and give me the third one, right? And so the trick is you have to memorize that one specifically. So what they do is they mix up position, pattern count, and left and right words all into these questions, and you have to really know these or you're screwed, okay? And what makes it worse, here's one more level of difficult, is they say you need to exactly know what constitutes a word break. So if you remember my training, I hammered on this a while back. Why did I hammer on it? Because it's on the test. Frequently, you'll find me emphasizing stuff, and you're like, why is Richard emphasizing stuff? Because I know either it matters to you in your day-to-day life, or if you're going to take the certification test, it matters. And so if you see me like really dwelling on something, and it also could be that it's difficult for me, but the word count, knowing what constitutes a word, I think it's changed over the years a little bit, and there's some really bizarre rules to how it works. So generally you want the most common scenarios, but like a period sometimes is not a word separator, blah, 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 because you could have a number and then a decimal, another number, and that's a number, right? So it's considered one word, right? So if a period is in between numbers, so you have to sit and really understand this, not just kind of understand it. Like Megan probably can use it. She kind of understands it. She takes a test. It's going to turn her brain inside out into mush. And so you have to really understand these. And then what they do is I would say 20% of the test, maybe a little less, maybe 50, probably close to 20% of the test will be a mishmash of this and pattern count and word count, and then they'll throw in a script on top of it. The script's going to loop 5 times, and every time it's going to go find a word and swap it and replace it. The other one that you'll see them dive into a little bit is substitute, and you need to know trim. You need to know substitute and all the little issues with that. Substitute, is that correct? There we go. Substitute, trim, and what was the other? Oh, filter. And so here's the rub with the certification test. We've talked about this yesterday. There's a billion get functions in there, and I said, what are the most popular get functions? And everyone here jumped around and said, basically, they gave me get last error, get found count, get last error, get found count, or there were a couple of get current date, get current time if you want, but get current date is like, and so there's like 3 or 4 or 5 of these that are like the most critical ones that people use. That's what you're going to expect to see on the test that might show up. There are tons and tons and hundreds of functions. These are the high traffic functions. Once again, we're talking about the high traffic areas of the FileMaker platform. If you have carpet in a house or an apartment and you walk back and forth down the hallway, that hallway carpet's going to get wrecked and made dirty and broken and whatever. I have cats in a carpet in a room, and you can tell where the cats go, and then they also shred it with their claws. So you can see the high traffic areas. FileMaker is going to test you on the high traffic areas. They're generally not going to test you on stuff they would consider the weeds. Okay. So with the newer tests, you're going to see some questions on. I'm going to skip. I'm trying to answer what's his name's question. I don't have it in here. Let me go back here. Sorry. So Mark Johnson, one of our Marines, going, yeah, what about filter values? So there's some new functions that Claris came out with, unique values, filter values. You need to be able to handle values fairly well. Obviously, it's right here, okay? But they really tend to lean on these because these are the ones that have been around a long time, and they lean on that more than the filter and unique values. But those are on the test. I can tell you without a doubt, they're definitely there. It's just what I'm trying to do is get you to study in the high traffic areas, and I'm letting you know where the weeds are. There are some questions on filter and unique values. Those were added in FileMaker, 17, 16, whatever. Yeah, so you see that a lot too. All right, so moving along. So string of text, know exactly what constitutes a word. I'm telling you, this is if you don't know this, you take the test, you're going to be demoralized. You're going to say, Richard told me so, and I was stupid. Okay, because what happens is they don't even ask you about this. They don't even ask you what constitutes a word. No, they give you in this function, this stuff happens. And the only way to know what the correct answer is for you to also know this. They're testing 3 or 4 things at one time, and this one is the crux of a bunch of them. You have to know what constitutes a word. So it's a good skill set to have. You're building FileMaker Solutions, knowing what the words are and how to manage the words and manipulate strings and stuff. Super important. There are a couple for Kyle. Kyle, feel good about this. They do. And Kyle's probably certified. I don't know if you're certified or not, but you probably should be. JSON, they have a couple JSON, get element kind of questions like that. Not a ton. This is the area where you're going to get hammered on more is this stuff. So the JSON stuff is a peripheral knowledge. Sorry, Kyle. Right. So, but it's a peripheral knowledge. You could throw it away and not learn it, or maybe you know it enough, but JSON, get element, JSON, whatever the JSON ones are off the top of my head. I couldn't quote them for you. Exporting data. Importing data, exporting data. Okay, you need to understand how you import and export data out of FileMaker, what the options of importing and exporting are. And for example, if you import a bunch of data, how does that affect built-in validations? Okay, there's no, so the built-in, what I call the old school validations, which I hate, like really hate. I think that shall be script triggers and managed directly with scripts. So understand that you're going to need to know how to import, export, and what that's likely to look like. And because exporting, like for example, what are the ways to export a container? Okay, you can right click on it and say export. If you have a right click on a mouse, you can go down to edit or whatever you do. And you need to, and part of this is that you need to also kind of know what is likely to happen in Go on some of these really basic ones. Like exporting and importing is supported in Go. You probably should know about that as well. So is a string surrounded by spaces, word break. So Moki's asking a question: what separates words? You got to look it up in the help documents in FileMaker, but a comma, certain slashes and stuff like that. And so yeah, you need to look at that. So a space is obviously a word break. A period can be a word break, but not all the time. A comma is a word break, I think, in general. But there's, you've got to look at underscores and how that behaves, dashes and all that kind of stuff, because they will test you, put dashes and underscores and stuff like that into a string, and you better know whether it breaks the word or not. But see, everyone's commenting here with single characters. They got a little window, and I actually had it over here somewhere. It was one of those things that I saved because it was so valuable. Let me see if I can find it real quick. No, not that one. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Give me 1 second here. One of the tricks of doing these broadcasts is being able to have all the little tooly things ready to go in short order. Looks like I may have misplaced it. So anyway, but yeah, the idea is that you have the ability to identify specific word breaks and look at that. Because they're going to give you the string and they're going to say, well, this calculation looped 12 times, and so it's looking for the fifth word in the string, and you got to know what the fifth word is. But it ain't Mary had a little lamb, and the lamb is the fifth word or whatever. It's going to be Mary / lamb ... with, you know, flying Thunderbird backwards with a Teletubby or something, right? And you're like, ah, right? It's not simple. And so you have to look and see where the words are, and then you know it. There's the fifth word. Here's your answer, letter A. And it's multiple choice, but trust me, I'd almost be better with a... Well, here's the thing with multiple choice tests. You've got to read the question carefully. Don't think you read it and read it carefully. You need to read the question carefully. And then multiple choice, there are sometimes obviously bad answers, right? And you can eliminate those. So if you have A, B, C, D, and E, which is typically what they will do, if you can eliminate 2 or 3 of them down as really stupid things, then you're already much farther ahead. Because a lot of times they'll do stuff and you'll be like, eh. For example, great question. This is a behavior change in FileMaker. So it depends if you're old school or new school and you know what's going on. Go to related record, GTRR, go to related record. That behavior changed in FileMaker, okay? And I preferred the old behavior myself because it made more logical sense. If you're in a relationship, so I remember that Scott Kane shows a relationship, and you're going just from 1 to 2. You don't have to go through a bunch of hops. Just the first one, the second one. Show me the related records. This contact, show me the related invoices. In the old version of FileMaker, back in 7 or 8 or 10 or 11 or wherever it was, they changed it. This got changed. Go to related record would show you, if there were no related records, it would still go to layout. You'd have a found set of 0. Guess what? It's showing you the related records. There aren't any. Perfect. That logically makes so much sense. Somewhere along the line, they decide that if there are no related records, it won't go anywhere. And so people will like to write a script and they don't do error checking. And they say, go to related record and delete those records. Okay, 2 failures. 1, as good FileMaker developers, we don't delete records unless we're like really sure we can live with the consequences. And we don't use cascading deletes because they can trigger inappropriately, shall we say. And so deleting is just generally a bad idea. But what if the test question said, if I go to related record and I execute a delete command, and this loop happens, and then there's 5 words in it, what's likely to actually happen? And then what they're testing in that situation is, what is FileMaker's behavior if a GTRR fails? What does it do? It'll throw a dialog or it won't. You can suppress the dialog or you won't, right? And that's tested too, right? But what happens, right? Well, in the old days, it would go to a layout. You'd have a found set of 0. You hit a delete command, nothing happened. Do it now, you're going to end up deleting the wrong record out of the wrong table, okay? So there we go. So that's that. So bouncing around, looping scripts, go to records. So basic low-hanging fruit. This is still in the test. There's a number of little, we talked about it yesterday, where they give you a script, and if you're doing it online, you can't have any notes, any paper, anything. And what ends up happening is that you have to simulate it in the head, like iteration 1, it does this. And you might have one that iterates 12 times. It gets kind of mentally taxing. Once again, I would, if it was me, I'm not Kyle, I don't have this super high IQ. I kick all those to the end of the test, and then if I have time, I go back and I pick through the more difficult ones to do. If you take the test in person, they give you a laminated piece of paper with a dry erase or wet erase or whatever, and you can make notes, so as it iterates each one, you can do, so you don't have to keep it in your head. So taking it in person for me was better by far. Yeah, so Kyle's babbling about the GTRs and this, which is fine, but it's just understand that So another thing that you better understand, error capture, right? And it's really, error capture is a bad idea, is a mislabeled. We talked about that, right? Is a mislabeled, misleading terminology. So error capture is where it should be error suppression, because here's the thing in FileMaker. Say that you go to let's just keep it more even simple than that. We're going to do a find for Rick in the database. There is no Rick. So you get a FileMaker dialog that says, there are no Ricks. What would you like to do? Modify the find or cancel or something, right? So you say, you turn error capture on. What happens? Okay? There are no errors. Therefore, it just keeps going. Not true. Set error capture on only suppresses the dialog. That's all it does. It doesn't do anything beyond that. It suppresses the dialog so the user doesn't see it. The error is still there. The question is whether you do anything about it is the question. You need to understand and know that, right? So, oh, well, the error, or for example, throw a dialog, throw a custom dialog. Not a car style window. We talked about windows yesterday. They're going to test you on that. Custom dialog is a great one, right? And then the bottom of a custom dialog, which is kind of this antiquated technology, you can put 2 or 3 buttons on it. And how do you capture those buttons? How do you test for button 1 versus button 2? Like if button 1 says cat and button 2 says dog and button 3 says foxtrot or something on it, and you want to say capture what happens if the custom dialog result equals foxtrot, what happens? What is the results of that, right? And I just laid a subtle one in there. Some of you caught that, but you have to learn how the custom dialogues work. So they're not going to test you on every command in the thing. They're going to test you on the high traffic areas. Custom dialogues, these functions, substitute function, filter function, anything that has left, right, or middle on it, fair game, right? Understanding how words break, fair game. Loops, old school looping. Go to loop, go to next record, go to next record, exit after last, right? Most everyone's done that. If you're a brand new developer, brand new to FileMaker and you come from another programming language, then this will be an outlier, something you probably don't know. Most people say exit the loop if this, because you can exit a loop if this condition exists, right? Well, that didn't used to exist, right? Now it's go to the next record, exit after last, so it keeps flipping through records, and then when it hits the last record, it tries to go to the next. It's on the last record. It tries to go to the next record. There is no next record. It exits. You better know that. Right? That's like old school from like 1912 when we walked 8 miles in the snow barefoot with our lunch pail in the Midwest, right? And there was no heat, right? We talked about that, right? Security issues like that. Let functions. Spend a little time understanding let functions. If you use them all the time like Kyle or an advanced engineer, this won't be a problem at all. What can let functions do? Can you define and I haven't put this in here, but you got merge fields. What's a merge field? How is it useful? What was the one that always killed me? They would always ask, like, really. Sometimes they ask stuff that's like, what was it? They put a global auto interruption on a global field or something like that, or auto interruption on a global container. And you're like, how does an auto interruption work on a global? Because if it's a global, it doesn't really. So you need to understand that if you mix a global with validation auto interruptions, what happens if anything? What happens if you have a merge field on a screen? Is a merge field a kind of a field, right? What is a merge field, right? That's kind of a trick question. What are merges, right? Let functions, you have to be able to loop, and once again, you got to do it in your head. And if the let function is going to recursively spin like a while function, you got to be able to do that in your head or count it on your fingers. And they yelled at me a bunch of times. I'm sitting here talking. So 1 is 2, 2 is 3, and they go, "Sir, you cannot talk to yourself or anyone else." And I'm like, okay, so I'll talk really quietly. So I'm using my fingers to count. All right, I look like a kindergartner, right? Because I can't have a pen and paper. Oh, let me just write on the desk. Sir, you can't have a writing utensil. So taking a test in person is better because they at least give you a piece of paper. You don't get to keep the piece of paper, but you get to write stuff out, which is really useful. So moving along with all the stuff that you're going to run into. We talked about this yesterday. I want to reiterate this. Lots of script triggers out there. Where are the high traffic functions, high traffic triggers, high traffic script steps. Right? So object level script triggers are high traffic, right? Startup scripts are high traffic. Closing scripts are high traffic. Keystrokes are high traffic. Slide controls and tab panels are high traffic, right? If you're going to navigate in and out of a tab, how do you detect that you're in that tab? Well, the person can see it, but programmatically, how can you tell that the person has jumped that tab? Oh, I clicked the tab button. That's not the right answer. That's on the test. That's not the right answer, right? Oh, I clicked on a tab, therefore I can say if the last clicky thingy was it. No, you can't click on a tab and detect that you clicked on the tab. It doesn't work that way. Well, the problem with the trip, once again, I'm talking about areas that you need to study. I'm not giving you questions and answers. I'm just talking about facts in FileMaker, and it's obvious from the documents they provide, kind of the high traffic areas. I understand with this test is that there will not be any version like FileMaker 19.2.1.3 build 108 only works on Windows 10 or Windows 7 or Windows XP or whatever, and then pick the ones it works on. Any of the version specific stuff is out, right? That stuff's gone, and so they're trying to make kind of a generic test. Once again, what does the test look like in a year? I have no idea what it'll look like in a year. Not a clue. Not a clue. So, okay. So moving along, Leland says, so I presume workarounds don't count, i.e., you can change the price setup by scripting, deleting. Okay. So Peter and Pete. Yeah, so there's conversation there about on Twitch a little bit, but the short version is that yeah, there's the word separators right there. Good job, TK. Put the word separator link out there. Very nicely done. Moving along on timers. This is not a high traffic thing, but they tested on it, and I nailed the hell out of this because when this came out, I did a sample files on it and videos on it. It's kind of goofy the way it works, but they actually do. I don't consider high traffic, but you might want to know about on timers, how they work. So on timer is a time delayed. I don't know. It's like setting a bomb to go off in your FileMaker solution, right? So it's a timer, and so it's attached to a window. What happens if you duplicate the window, right? And then what if you install the timer on one window, and then you install it again on the window, and then you install it again on the window, and then you duplicate the window, right? They'll ask the question like, if you have a beep, the script's going to beep, right? On timer beeps, and it repeats every minute. And then you run that script 5 times. And then to install it 5 times, is it going to create 5 of them, or is it just going to do the one because maybe you name the timer or something like that, right? Which one is it? And then if you duplicate the window, does that come forward with the duplication of the window, or is it just on the original window? You need to know all that, right? If statements are obvious, case statements and choose statements, and once again, choose statements. Remember, some of the things in FileMaker start with position 0. They will drill you on I consider, well, if you know it, you know. If you don't, you don't. Case statements are pretty straightforward, but there is a position 0, right, with choose. And if you don't remember choose, I think we covered that in the live stream, so go back and watch that. So there you go on that one. So 40, value count, value count, value count. That's another one of those value ones, unique values, filter values or whatever, value count. And then once again, they will create fake functions. If you see an answer that says, I think is what get is, let me just do this one. This is the one that always killed me. So I probably shouldn't tell you guys this. So we'll probably have to delete this from the recording. But if I go to script workspace and no, not script. I need the help. FileMaker Pro help. I keep seeing this in the test, and it always hurts my head when I see it. Okay, you see this right here? That's all I'm going to say. Nothing more to say, okay? That shows up as a possible answer in more than one case. And it makes a lot of sense, right? I'll get the words out of the string, okay? It doesn't exist. It's pie in the sky. It probably should be there, but that ain't a thing. So just so you know. So if you see if you see Bigfoot, for those of you who understand, international people, maybe you don't understand, but Bigfoot's like the Loch Ness monster or whatever. It's a social story that's lies and deceit and mostly made by people trying to sell tickets to go see Bigfoot. And then you take a truck in the middle of nowhere and you don't see anything, but you paid your money, and so they waste your time with that. It's like if someone said, hey, we got Jurassic Park with real dinosaurs. They haven't made that yet, and so the dinosaurs would be all like plastic and mud and stuff. But what if, so get words is like Bigfoot. Like if you can actually find it in the real world, then yeah, it's amazing. So there you go. Questions about things, because we're wrapping and we're heading towards the end. What's the last one I have? Themes. Oh yeah. So they will spend a little time in layout mode over here and talk about, so you should understand that there are 4 tabs. They won't say how many tabs are there, right? I think they'll ask questions about like this kind of theme or that kind of theme or whatever. Without me giving it away specifically, you should understand what themes come with the product, more or less. You don't have to memorize all the names, but if you start a new layout on a file, what might that look like? If you start a brand new file, what that might look like, right? What's the default behavior of that, right? Let's see. Hide object when. I don't remember if they test. They should test. That's a high traffic area. I don't know if they test on that or not. Anyway, so control styles. Understand that these are control styles. I don't know that that's in there, but definitely custom themes and shared styles. If you understand what a theme is and a shared style, you should understand those terms and kind of loosely what they work on. Okay, if that makes sense. We shot some videos on that. Unless you're like a Nick Hunter, like a real serious UI guy, most people just kind of gloss over it. And maybe those are questions you don't want to bother with, like the SQL question, right? Why bother with that if you're not going to learn it, right? I mean, I got an engineer named John Eisen who works for me, and he part-time anyway, and he loves to do SQL, and his background is SQL, but he's learning FileMaker, and he keeps getting into FileMaker, and we say, hey, the customer wants a find button that does this. He writes it in SQL. Problem is, most of the rest of my company are not SQL heads, right? And so we kept doing it. I explained to him that we were going to let him go if he can't write stuff in FileMaker words instead of SQL. If he wants to write SQL, then he needs to work for a company, and they just pay him to write, in Oracle or MySQL or something like that. So anyway, I do FileMaker all the time, but I don't code it all the time. So when I have to take the test, it takes me about a week of study. I have to clear my schedule for a week. That sucks. I mean, who has a week to give away, right? But like if you do it all day, every day, like Jake does it every day, he should be able to probably pass it if he hasn't already. Kyle can definitely pass it. TK can pass it. Some of these guys can pass it. Nat Lobster, maybe, probably. I think she could probably pass it if she hasn't already. Afrolin can definitely pass it, that guy. Neil can probably pass it. Oh, my God. All right, you people are bad people. That's not what I'm going to look like next week. Next week. I'll have to pick the day we're doing that. But for those of you wanting to see the picture here, that is Richard. That's tough. Well, okay, here's a good one. Go take the test when it comes out, or go take the 18 test. The 18 test, 19 test are sufficiently similar that you're going to have a real good feel for the 19 test if you take the 18 test. They did not rewrite it from 18 to 19. Go take a test. It's $150. I understand if you're a junior engineer and you're making $15 an hour, $25 an hour, and that's a lot of money. But if you're farther along in life and you're trying to get this done, then go take it once or twice and just plan on failing it. Take it to learn. Take it to, you can't take notes away. You can't make notes. I can't take, screenshots and bring them to you guys and say, here's the test questions. But you can learn and make notes yourself of areas you need to study and then do it again. And if you really want to pass it and you're really just trying to learn the piece you need to learn, you probably take it a couple times just with the idea of flunking it. Knowing that you're going to flunk it. Oh, well, what if I passed it? Okay. If you're worried about trying to answer it, take the stress away. Just focus on absorbing the questions they're asking. It's totally legal. And then you have to, if you fail it, you got to wait 2 weeks. You could take it again, right? Take it again indefinitely, right? But eventually you'll start to see these questions and you'll get questions and answers. It'll be great. So yeah, we're at about the top of the hour, coming up to the end here. Questions about this stuff. So tomorrow, a different day. Bring your laptop or desktop computer. You're going to put the live stream in one window or whatever. And you're going to be building in the other window. And we're going to all build it together. We're all going to hold hands and build our add-ons together. Yes, we're all good with that? But yeah, I think this is all pretty straightforward stuff. So I was told that Claris is waiting to release and it's a kind of an interesting, it's not necessarily a dumb thing. It's just they're trying to release, I guess, a Japanese version and an English version at the same time. So they said to me, it's not really a secret. Here's the interesting thing about it. A third of the FileMaker user base is in North America. Okay, a third of it is in Japan. And it makes perfect sense if you understand the culture. I love the Japanese. I think they're fantastic. I've never quite been able to figure out how to help them because I don't speak Japanese, and they would rather listen to someone in Japanese, right? So, but a third of them are North American, a third of them are Japanese, and a third are everywhere else. So a huge chunk of Claris's revenue comes from Japan. So they are making sure that the Japanese get equal billing on the certification test, and it comes out for them in Japanese and English at the same time. So that's what they're doing. So yeah, well, I would not have known it either, except that I had some conversation with a chief financial officer at Claris a while back when I used to hang out down the building down there with them, and I learned quite a bit. If you let the previous management team would, at the end of the day, kind of walk the building talking to people. It was really a good thing to do, trying to take the pulse of the stuff. And back at that time, I was actually down there trying to help them learn how to sell and how to meet, how to talk to customers. Because remember, the salespeople don't know anything about, really, they don't know anything about the product. They're just there to collect a credit card and move on. And so they need technical people to help them with that and give them ideas and stuff like that. And so I was down there interacting, working with them. And the CEO and the CFO would walk the building, the old building. They're not there anymore. And I would actually still be there working late, and they would walk through, and I'd be like, hey, and it would be a really good exchange of information. That allows me to actually talk to you and talk from an educated standpoint. Something they won't tell you unless you listen to the fine point or fine print, or you talk to them at DEF CON or something. And so I kind of miss that. I miss having that degree of interaction with them. Now they're very much walled off, right? It's like the maze. I like the maze movie with the kid. The kids are in the maze and the walls are in there and this like whole thing, right? So one of those movies that, for whatever reason, resonates with me pretty well. So off topic, Claris is thinking of Go for Android. That is not a true statement. I need to be extraordinarily clear about that, David. Okay, you just stated an inaccurate statement. Okay, so I need to be extraordinarily clear about that. I don't want people mad about it. They are not making Go for Android. They are making a client for Android, not Go for Android. Because if you had Go for Android, it would imply similar capabilities and similar feature sets. Yes, so there we go. Yeah. So there's no to be very clear about it. There's no Draco engine running on Android. So how are they going to do that? Where are they going to make it work? What will it work with? Okay. So, yeah. So anyway, yep. Yeah. So, well, LiveCode's not a database engine. Yes, they're working with LiveCode. That's not a surprise. But LiveCode is not Draco, and they don't have access to Draco. And even if they wanted to do it, they wouldn't do it with Draco. So it's probably an SQL backend with some glued on FileMaker stuff on the front end, would be my guess. At least, listen, so LiveCode, before Claris came to them and had this conversation, LiveCode had already taken up a Kickstarter, GoFundMe kind of thing, and I had put $1,000 in. I sent to LiveCode, so they would work on building that solution. The solution was never supposed to be Go. It's supposed to be, you take a layout, you take a couple scripts, and if the layout's not too sophisticated and it doesn't really have a bunch of relationships on it and stuff, then we're going to kind of reconstruct it mostly, and then it will kind of work. The idea was supposed to be a data collection tool, right? Very like collect the tool, then come back and then kind of synchronize it. It's not FileMaker for Android. It was a hacked up kind of, basically, if those of you remember FileMaker Mobile, way back in the old days, how that was, that's what this is kind of supposed to be originally. Now, my suspicion is that Claris went, oh, that sucks. It's not good enough. We don't want to have our name on that, so make it better. And so they're trying to figure out how to make it better without porting Draco into the thing. If they could port Draco to Android, that would be a big deal, but Claris wants to move beyond Draco. They want to re-engine the product, right? They've been talking about this, not so subtly, for a bunch of years, that they want a more beefy engine under the hood, right? So anyway, yeah, so anyway. Yes, for FileMaker Mobile, right? But there was also, was there FileMaker? Well, that was FileMaker. Well, I'm thinking way back before FileMaker, before the iPhone. I think they had it. Didn't they have a Palm Pilot one? Was that? Yeah, it was a Palm Pilot. It was never on the iOS before Bento. It was before Bento, right? So so it goes way back, right? So it's now FileMaker Go 1.0 had a ton of issues, but it was the engineers. Okay, so the story is, and I'll end with this. There have been a handful of engineers who brought the product to fruition over the last 30 years, right? Most of them are retired or moved on. A couple are left. But Chris Krim and Clay Mackel and John Thatcher, the three musketeers, plus some other people, two of which are now retired. Krim went home on a weekend because they were having lunch on a Friday or Thursday, and they're babbling back and forth at the Wedge, the building they're not at anymore. But they were up there having lunch, and they were talking, and so the story goes, and it's from them, so they were there, that they said, well, the power that's in our iPhone is the same as like a Mac LC or SI or something from way back when. And they go, that could totally run the Draco engine. And they're like, well, then the iPhone should be able to run the Draco engine. And they went, oh shit, click. And so Chris Krim went home on a weekend and cobbled together a very limited interface that would display the Draco engine on the iPhone. And the product management team saw it and went partially bonkers good and partially bonkers bad because it was kind of radical, heresy. And then like 2 or 3 or 4 months later, whatever it was, they went to DevCon, and John Sigler, who left and went to Microsoft, was a product manager at the time, and kind of an interesting guy. Lots of stories we could tell, but we'll just stay on topic here. And he got in front of everyone and said, yeah, next year at this time, we're going to have FileMaker Go 1.0. And all the engineers went because they knew it was a basket of hacked together shit that didn't work. I mean, it worked, but I mean, hacking a prototype together is a far cry from a stable application that can connect to a server and do stuff, right? So, henceforth then became the next year of hell for the engineering department trying to build a product that actually worked, right? So yeah, John Sigler stories, yeah. So anyway, so Bento, yeah, interesting on that. So I'm going to leave it now. We've gone way off in the weeds, but there's history here. There's really interesting history. And it's kind of been this organic process. And Claris made great strides forward when they had the advocates on board with what they were doing. And when they do stuff without the advocates, then it kind of has this hit and miss thing that goes on, which is, you could say you see that bits and pieces. It's always something going on, right? So good and bad and the ugly. Add-ons are great, and then what's not going so great, well, you can pick whatever you want to talk about. But I'm going to let it go here. We'll have to... That's interesting. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to cut you loose at this point. Tomorrow is going to be come with your laptops, be ready to go. Story time is over. You have your post-lunch snack and time for a nap, right? And then we get up and finish the rest of the day. So that would be good. Tomorrow, add-on modules is going to be awesome. And that's the problem with one person here and my green hair. Yeah, my sister right here. Yeah. Actually, I do have a sister. I thought you were referring to that. That's the other Richard, right? Yeah. So, yeah, she's a bit on the wild side. So, they're very different than I am. So, there we go. All right, so I'm going to cut you loose. That's it for today. Appreciate everyone. We'll catch you tomorrow with Christian Olson on add-ons. Bring your thinking faces and a smile.
Guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap. Stands in, throws it left for Amendola. Reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10. Rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.